Welcome back into Pigskin Perspectives. It is a post-conference championship week episode, a post-NFL week 13, I believe it is. Time is blending together right now. The football season has gone by too fast, and it is nearing its dramatic conclusion. None could be more dramatic than what college football just pulled off. We're going to get to all of it. But let's just start with we'll start with the NFL today. We got to get through this because college football, I feel like, is going to take a minute here. So let's just get through the NFL. So to recap, the games this weekend kind of sucked. No way about it. Started on Thursday night, good game, back and forth. Very offensive battle. It was the Cowboys coming up on top 41-35. Don't know what Geno Smith and Seahawks play calling was doing that final drive. Cost them the game. Cowboys still in the hunt for the NFC East, which is surprising for me since I picked them to finish bottom of the division, and that is clearly not happening. They are clearly making the playoffs. They may even win the division, depending on if they win next week. I mean, they play Philadelphia next week. Philadelphia doesn't look great. We'll get to that. But the Cowboys come out victorious in this one. The Colts and the Titans went to overtime. It was the Colts coming away with a 31-28 victory after a game-winning field goal. Wins them the game after just a debacle of a drive for the Titans in overtime. Will Levis, I don't know. I don't think he's the answer for the Titans. I don't know if the Titans go out and get another quarterback this year, but it would be the third straight year, I think, of them drafting a quarterback, because they drafted Malik Willis. They drafted Will Levis. Could they draft another quarterback? Who knows? I don't think Will Levis is the answer, though, for these Tennessee Titans. This is a game that happened. The Los Angeles Chargers defeat the New England Patriots 6-0. Yeah, you read that score correctly. 6-0. Two Cameron Dicker 38-yard field goals. Both were 38 yards away. Both in the second quarter. Win the Chargers this game. There's not much more to say about this one. The Lions traveled down to the Superdome to face off against the New Orleans Saints. They walk away with a 33-28 victory, but it was less than convincing. They opened up with a 28-7 lead, I believe. Obviously, they came close to losing it. They were trying to give that game away as much as possible. But the Lions were resilient, ended up getting the win, even though I say resilient, even though I don't know if you really want to characterize it as that. It was just they saved the game from themselves. Something like that. But the Lions do walk away with victorious. They still are running away with this NFC North, even though there are some teams trying to keep up on them. Another game that did happen, the Atlanta Falcons defeated the New York Jets 13-8. The Jets, I don't know. The Falcons, what do you want me to say? This was a rain-delayed game. It got delayed like 2 times because of lightning. The Cardinals walked away with a 24-10 victory over the Steelers, and this is just an uncharacteristically Steelers performance. You would have thought Matt Canada was coaching this game, even though he was not. The Cardinals walk away with victorious in this one. It's definitely not a win that helps their tanking situation, given kind of what's going on around those teams at the bottom. But we'll see what happens with that. Kind of expected with this one, the Miami Dolphins just run away from the Washington Commanders. Sam Howell throws, I think, 2 picks in this game. But the Dolphins walk away with a 45-15 victory. Again, no true surprise there. The Dolphins love beating up on teams that are below 500, and this was the case here at FedEx Field. The Broncos, riding hot, go into Houston against another hot team, I would say, the Houston Texans. A last-minute drive by Russell Wilson ends up with an interception. The Texans come away with victorious, 22-17. Both teams, I don't know. We'll get with the AFC South later, but I think a door is somewhat opening a bit for a Colts or Texans to win this division. I don't think it's going to happen, but the door is creeping open. This Broncos team, I think, can still sneak in the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to do much there, but I think they can still sneak in. But it was a game that kind of lowered the expectation a bit. I don't know if that's the word to say it, because, they were riding high off a few wins in a row. You start getting that feeling, and then you just get taken back down. But the Texans, I think they are the better team that has a chance of winning a playoff game if they were to make the playoffs. An NFC South battle. You just love these NFC South or NFC South games, I should say. It was the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers walk away with a 21-18 victory against the now head coachless Carolina Panthers. They sit at 1-11. Can't say much about that. The shock game of the week. The 49ers go into Lincoln Financial Field, Philadelphia. They just absolutely demolished the Eagles, 42-19. The Eagles were never in this game, ever. The 49ers just ran away with it. They had something to prove after last year's NFC Championship game where Brock Purdy got injured. Now you can always argue that the result would have been different if he was healthy. I don't really think so. The Eagles were very hot at the time and just kind of felt like they were getting that victory no matter what. And it kind of felt this way. The 49ers were going to get this victory no matter what. The Eagles just haven't looked good the past few weeks, which has opened the door for Dallas to possibly take control of this division as they face each other next week. So we will see who is on top of that division at the end of next week. The Browns, technically traveled to LA. They were in Denver last week and stayed in LA this week. They didn't go back to Cleveland. They lose to the Rams 36-19. The scoreline's not really indicative of how the game went. It was just a lot of late scoring for the Rams. The Browns defense just kind of flat at the end. Joe Flacco, given that he's 38 years old, hasn't played a game in a year, looked good. Is he going to get another start? I have no idea, given that DTR might be back for the Jaguars game next week. Depends on if you clear concussion protocol. We'll see about that. The Sunday Night Football game, the Packers, they're getting hot at the right time. They defeat the Kansas City Chiefs 27-19. What a performance by Jordan Love. He is really coming into his own. There were a lot of people, including myself, that said at the beginning of the year, what did the Packers just do? This dude looks awful out here. He has figured it out. He's gotten it rolling. He's got the gravy train rolling. The Packers just look good right now. They look like a team that can sneak into the playoffs and beat whoever they face in the wild card round. They just look that good right now. And then finally on Monday night, the Bengals, Joe Burrow-less Bengals with Jake Browning as starting quarterback, facing off against the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. It was the Bengals walking away with a 34-31 overtime victory. after Trevor Lawrence goes down with an ankle injury in the fourth quarter. They're saying high ankle sprain. That could mean he's out next week. It could mean he's out for the season. It could be he's not out at all. So the injury still truly unknown. I'm sure we'll find out about more of it this week. But this was a tough game for the Jags as they had a chance to take control of that first seed in the AFC. They lose. They possibly lose their quarterback and now have opened the door with the loss also for both the Colts and the Texans to possibly win this division. So it's going to be interesting to see how the AFC South plays out the rest of the week, or the year, I should say, and the week. All of it. Well, let's move on. Let's move on to college football. We diverted from it at the beginning. We'll go to it now. We're not going to recap all the conference championship games because we're going to get to the important ones right now because the college football playoff has been announced. Lots and lots and lots of controversy. So let's get into it. First, we'll do the playoff. Number 1, Michigan, they beat Iowa handily 26-0, even though they didn't look like a top 4 team because they haven't since November. They're the number 1 seed. They will be headed to the Rose Bowl to face off against the number 4 seed, Alabama. The SEC champions, they beat Georgia quite handily. Georgia never really felt like they were in that game. So Georgia, the 2-time defending champions, lose for the first time in 3 years. They obviously are out of the playoff. And then number 2, Washington, after their defeat of Oregon on Friday night, face off against number 3, Texas, who just handled Oklahoma State. They will face off in the All-State Sugar Bowl on New Year's night. So that is your top 4, Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama. You may notice a team missing, a undefeated team, a team with a conference championship. No, I'm not talking about Liberty. I am talking about Florida State. Florida State ends up the 5 seed. We'll get to them in a minute. Florida State was as high as 4, I believe. So they never really fully moved into the playoff picture, I don't think. So they were 4. They dropped because of the Jordan Travis injury. They dropped to 5. They moved back up to 4 after Ohio State lost. And after a lackluster win, I'll put it, against Louisville with a 3rd-string quarterback because your 2nd-string quarterback was in concussion protocol. They put up a lackluster performance. They got left out. First of all, the committee was never leaving out an SEC champion. Just wasn't happening. No chance whatsoever. I get where the committee's coming from. The Florida State team that started the season 10-0 is not the same Florida State team that has went 3-0 in the last 3 weeks. Jordan Travis's injury, major blow. But you can't just discredit a whole season because of one injury. You can't just be said, hey, you're out of the playoffs because your quarterback got injured and yeah, that's it. The whole committee thing, they were judging. They said that the lackluster performance. You got to remember, Tate Rodemaker, the backup quarterback that would have started in this game, hadn't he been in concussion protocol, probably is out of concussion protocol come New Year's. So you are judging a team that would be playing with a 2nd-string quarterback in the possible playoff by what a 3rd-string quarterback did in a conference championship game. I mean, what are we doing? Obviously, this is a proven reason why we need an expanded playoff next year. Do I think 12 is the answer? No. I think it should be 8. I think 8 is an equal amount. I get that you have to give an advantage somewhere to conference champions, and that's how the buys work, all that fun stuff. I still think this works out better with 8 teams than it does 4. Now, Alabama. They did just beat the number 1 team in the nation. Have been number 1 for 2 years, basically. Haven't lost in 3 years, and the last team to beat them was this Alabama team. Not this exact one, but they were never getting left out. It was always going to be somebody left out. And especially after Texas's dominating victory, you weren't taking Alabama without Texas. Given the result of this season's game, that wasn't happening. Now, you could make an argument if Alabama wins that game, Alabama wins the SEC title, they're undefeated, that's fine. Texas now sits on 2 losses in this hypothetical. They can still win the Big 12. Florida State's in this playoff. So the committee's somewhat showing that regular season results matter, but also showing that regular season results don't matter in accordance with injuries, I guess. We'll obviously get to predictions much closer to this game. We have to see how injuries play out and all that fun stuff. Overall, do I think the committee made the right decision? From an entertainment standpoint only, yes. Michigan, Alabama, and Texas, Washington will be 2 very, very good games. Michigan, Florida State, and whatever, Texas, Washington, Alabama, Washington, whatever. Let's just focus on who Florida State would have played, and that would have been Michigan most likely. Wouldn't be as good of a game, if we're honest, especially with the backup quarterback. From a non-entertainment standpoint and a human being standpoint, this was wrong, but committee's all about the money. Couldn't get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. It's all about the almighty dollar. And that's what happened here. That's just what happened. The injury came at an awful time. I think you can make an argument if Jordan Travis got injured earlier in the year and Tate Rodemaker played longer with this team, they could still be undefeated, all that fun stuff. They would have made the playoff. They might drop one in there with Tate as quarterback, so I don't know. It should be an entertaining playoff nonetheless. We'll get to a lot more of it as it comes closer. But let's just take a look at what else the committee has decided. So, as was mentioned, Florida State did drop to 5, even though they won the ACC. So, they ended up in the Orange Bowl. They will be facing off against the losers of the SEC, obviously, number 6 Georgia Bulldogs. They will be facing off on Saturday, December 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time in the Orange Bowl at Hard Rock Stadium. These are 2 teams that I truly don't know if they want to be there to, beat up on each other because they are mad, or 2 teams that are just so dejected to be here, basically. I don't know which one we are going to get. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Florida State has a lot more improved than Georgia does, so I wouldn't be surprised if Florida State plays a more physical game than Georgia does, I would say. Moving on, the number 7 team, Ohio State, will be facing off against the number 9 team, Missouri Tigers, at the Cotton Bowl. Of course, at AT&T Stadium, no longer at the Cotton Bowl. It hasn't been there for almost 15 years now. They'll be facing off on Friday, December 29th, a nice 8 p.m. kickoff. Ohio State's had almost what feels like half their team hit the portal this week, including starting quarterback Kyle McCord. Will definitely be interesting to see how that plays out. Missouri, a team that was just stricken in mediocrity the past half decade finally rises up from it. Very good season this year. They finished number 9. They get rewarded with this Cotton Bowl game. Should be an entertaining matchup in that one. Moving on to the Peach Bowl as number 10, Penn State will face off against number 11, Ole Miss. That game's back on Saturday, December 30th. That's a noon kickoff at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. This should be an interesting game. Both coaches just love talking at press conferences, so they made this game a 60-minute press conference. That would be ideal, but I think Penn State's got a lot more they need to prove than Ole Miss does, so I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State plays a more physical game in this one. We'll see. And then finally, the Fiesta Bowl will feature number 8 Oregon going up against the Group of 5 participant, the Liberty Flames. They finished the season undefeated at 13-0, but they have the worst strength of schedule in the FBS. There was a big argument going on if SMU, the American champions who finished 11-2, would jump them after their win over Tulane in that conference title game. It ends up being Liberty. And basically the argument was Liberty's undefeated and they've won all their games compared to SMU, who have played 2 Big 12 teams and lost, which what an argument. What an argument. I don't know. This game, I have the feeling is going to be a blowout. Bo Nix has already said he's going to be playing in this game, so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of other names come on and play. And just given what's going to be the end result in this one, a lot of those players are only going to be playing a half because it's going to be a blowout. So that is the New Year's 6 bowl games. Obviously, the rest of the bowl games were released. We'll preview those as we get closer to them. I don't feel like we need to go through all of them right now because that would just make this show longer than it should be. So given that, that's going to wrap it up for today's whole recap of the playoff, the New Year's 6 NFL. Some games happened there, yeah. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you stumbled across this video, hit like, hit subscribe, tell anybody you know about it. If you think I said anything controversial, let me know. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be back on Thursday night recording another episode of Pigskin Perspectives to preview it's really going to be the NFL week ahead because the only college football game is the Army-Navy game. So hopefully we see you then, and goodbye for now.